Welcome to the Voter Interest Project's candidate interviews for 2023. I'm Alan McPheeters, the Executive Director of the Voter Interest Project. Our mission is to provide voters with the information they need to make informed decisions about government, candidates, and ballot measures. Our focus is local. We cover Island County, its cities and towns, and various special districts, as well as the representatives from the 10th Legislative District. The 2023 elections are local and nonpartisan. We are covering 44 elective offices on this year's ballot, including mayors, city councilors, school board directors, and commissioners for hospital, port, fire, parks, and cemetery districts. 67 candidates filed for these offices during filing week in May, and we have invited all of them to do interviews for you. We also have extensive coverage of these elections and the actions of these government agencies on our website, voterinterests.com. The following interview is with Ronnie Wright, one of 4 candidates for mayor of Oak Harbor. We provided a list of potential candidate questions to the candidate in advance of the interview. All right, today is July 29th, Thursday, and we're here with Ronnie Wright, who is running for mayor in Oak Harbor. Ronnie, welcome to the Voter Interest Project.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Great. Where are you today?
I am in my office at home. I'm right down the street from you, actually.
That's right. So full disclosure for people watching this, Ronnie literally lives 3 doors down the street from me. But do everything we can to be fair to all candidates involved. So
very good. Yes.
Let's start out with a little biographical information. People get to know you and where you're coming from and that kind of thing. Are you married or single?
I am married. I've been married for 25 years to my wife, Peggy.
Outstanding.
I have 2 stepdaughters that she had 2 girls from a previous marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And were you raised here on Whidbey or did you move here?
I moved to Whidbey Island in 1996 with the United States Navy is what brought me here. And then I met my wife and I decided to get out of the Navy and then go back to school, which is something I had wanted to do anyway. So I then used my GI Bill and went back to school to Western and earned my undergraduate degree in accounting.
Very good. Very good. And so moving through a bunch of these questions, which is good.
Sorry.
So no, that's totally fine. So accounting, right now you are the owner of Pacific Grace Tax and Accounting right out there on Highway 20.
That's correct, yes.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been working in the accounting field for 20 plus years. So, but I've been with the firm for 10 years now. So a partner at the firm for 10 years.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. What is the biggest challenge in running a tax and accounting firm?
I think it's like any other business. We're a cyclical business, which means, we probably earn 70 to 80% of our income in a 4-month period. So, and then you budget that for the rest of the year, to make sure the practice is healthy and maintaining everything it needs. But with anything, I think one of the biggest challenges right now is balancing employee satisfaction and also being able to offer a reasonable product at a reasonable price. There's a lot of that really becomes a balance that you have to look at. And because you are wanting to attract the best personnel all the time to be working for you. And I'm very fortunate that my shortest termed employee at my office is just a couple of years, but that's because I recruited her right out of college. Other than that, everyone's been there over 5 years. So
wow, very good.
Yeah.
The company that I work for now, we do business intelligence software for very large law firms.
Okay.
And before that, I worked in computer games, very different kinds of businesses. And so I had kind of stayed what I thought was a long time at my employer in computer games, 5 years. When I got to this company, the president who was looking over my resume said, "What's the deal with this guy? He's never been anywhere for longer than 5 years."
Yeah, it's funny how that's kind of changed, right? I mean, it used to be that someone went to work for a company and they stayed there for forever. And now that's very much the norm now. People do, come and go and go into other things or go to other companies. Yeah, it's for sure the norm now.
Yes, it sure is. Speaking of companies, let me come back to that.
Okay.
Let's just finish up with some of this biographical.
Okay. Yep.
So What is your political community service kind of experience?
Right. So I've never held a political office. I've never run for a political office before now.
Mhm.
Prior to this, though, I have served on many different 501c3 nonprofit boards in various capacities, that being treasurer, secretary, vice president, president. I've also served on local organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce, where I've been the president, vice president. I've been to every office I think you can be in there. I was on the board for 6+ years. I've also served on state boards and local boards for professional credentialing organizations. So that's given me a lot of perspective and insight into managing not just personnel, but how to manage logistically how things work and what's best for the organization, and helping them transition through sometimes turbulent times. There's, just like with any varying industries, there's peaks and valleys and everything. So it's been great. It's been rewarding. And I currently sit on the board for Northwest Hearts and Hammers, formerly Toddler Learning Center. They're now Steps. And I'm also on the PBY Memorial Board of Directors.
Oh, very good. Very
Yeah.
good. So speaking of organizations you've been involved with,
Mhm.
the mayor of Oak Harbor leads a government of about 180 people between all
Right.
the
Yeah.
departments.
Yeah.
Of all those organizations you've been involved in, what's the largest number of people that you've had in your organization?
Well, at times when I was a program manager for the Internal Revenue Service, when you're managing a program, you had as many as 2,800 people under your stead at any given
Wow.
time. So, but you obviously didn't do that alone, right? I mean, you had group managers, and then they were in charge of the revenue agents. So, I mean, it was like any other program. But and those were, those were not prolonged periods of time. I had just really started working in that area and experiencing that, and that was also part of the reason that I decided that I wanted to go in a different direction and get back into tax law. I enjoy working with people. I love it. I enjoy managing people as well, but I found a lot of passion and love for tax law and doing research and that kind of thing. So that's why I made the change.
Very good.
Yeah.
So now you might be among the four people running for this office, the one who has the most experience with budgets.
Hmm.
What's the largest budget you've been involved with any kind of organization?
It's been in excess of $10 million, that's for sure. So it still doesn't even rise to the threshold of, well, I mean, it's close. I mean, the city budget is very large. And I sat through a workshop yesterday for the city. It was a city council workshop, and went through all of that. But I mean, I have a very broad and vast experience in working with budgets and different types of accounting standards, whether it be Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, or FASB, Financial Accounting Standard Boards, which is non-governmental. So I'm very well versed there. I have a lot of experience in doing that and feel very confident in that. I'm definitely your guy that's going to sit down, analyze the numbers, and then how does that apply to our capital projects and see if this even makes sense. And I think that's something that we could definitely use at the city level right now. I'd also like to add that one of the things that I didn't showcase, but when I was just starting in college or finishing my undergraduate degree, I was one of two people that was selected to do an internship with the Washington State Auditor's Office.
Oh,
And there were about 35 applicants at the time, and they selected two of us. And so I did a stint there as well. And that's where you specifically go around and audit different city and government municipalities. And so I have a lot of experience auditing different towns and cities, as well as different municipalities within our state government here in Washington.
very good.
Yeah.
I could use you down at the city of Langley. There's a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
problems with that.
Yes.
So you mentioned capital budgets. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. One of the things that you mentioned on your website was
Mhm.
capital projects and working with the Navy. And
Mhm.
I know that at the time that the clean water facility was being designed and developed, that the city had tried to work something out with the Navy so that they would have a partnership in it. And I
Mhm.
don't know the reasons why that didn't come out. Do you have some insight into why that didn't come about?
Yeah, I've actually had conversations with some different folks. And the Navy and the capital projects, as it related to their engagement, I think they probably didn't get off on solid footing as far as how they were communicating with one another, is my understanding.
Mm,
And again, I'm only getting the aftermath. I wasn't a part of this process or anything, so I'm somebody that likes to listen to all sides and then also read as much as I can that's factual or contemporaneous that gives you some real insight into what happened during those times. And I don't even know if those things exist. But what I'm saying is, um, it's all in how we communicate with people. And I see that seems to be a challenge at City Hall right now. And they're very amenable to us coming back to the table, though, and renegotiating this and bringing them on board. So it's definitely something that is high on my priority list, and something that I intend to take head on and help spearhead. And we have a lot of fantastic people at the city. I think we just need to maybe work on how we're communicating with other folks, though, to bring everyone to the table and make it fruitful for everyone. So,
sure, sure.
yeah, yeah.
If you were, let's say you're elected mayor,
Mhm.
4 years from now, you're running for reelection.
Mm.
What benchmark would you use to say, hey, we've had a very successful 4 years, or we didn't quite get everything done that I wanted to get done? How do you measure that?
Well, I'll tell you right now, there's no way that I think I will have everything done in 4 years. I absolutely think we will be progressing in that direction, right?
Sure.
Um, and it's very nice of you to say I'm going to run again. I haven't even thought about. I just got to get through this race first, but absolutely, I expect us to have benchmarks and something that we can deliver tangibly to the public to say, here's where we are, or here's where we were, here's where we are now. This is where we're going to continue to go. One of the things I think we need to focus on and really do a better job at as a government as a whole, not just here in Oak Harbor, but as a whole, we need to do a better job of being proactive in how we manage things instead of reactive and crisis management. And we do a lot of that as the government. So
Yes, yes. Can you give me something that comes to mind in that vein, maybe at the city level?
specifically, I mean, our infrastructure, our marina, I mean, we're decades behind where we need to be based upon the state of decay and disrepair that we have all around the city as well as at the marina. And even in listening to the experts yesterday present at the city workshop, we can do the things that they've outlined for us to do, provided we can secure all the funding. But we're still going to be behind somewhat. We're going to be maybe at a median level, not even at the average level where we need to be. So it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of continued effort to stay on task to bring us up to where we need to be. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do we need to be with the marina?
Marina right now, I mean, so one of the things that stood out to me from that workshop yesterday was for 5 consecutive years, we never raised our rates that we were charging people that were using the marina. So when you look at us in comparison to everyone else in the state, we're either the worst or the second worst in the entire state of Washington as
Wow.
far as what we're charging. And then when you look at the amount of disrepair and where things are, even if we spend a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, we're still going to have a long way to go because we're so far behind. So, what we need to do is we need to make that initial investment. We need to start turning that around. And then we need to have a long term plan of how we're going to continue to manage that and be proactive in refurbishing and refreshing things and making things stay current so that we don't get in this situation again. But we're seeing it even with our roadways and our sewer system and everything else, right? So I mean, it's not just in that area. It's in a lot of areas.
Yeah, yeah, that's certainly true.
Yeah.
Which of those areas, is that what is the biggest challenge for the city, catching up on all this infrastructure, or is there something else you think is the most
Well,
critical?
the biggest pitfall for the city was the wastewater treatment plant that went $100 million over budget or tens of millions of dollars over budget. That was such a financial drain that it pulled resources, not just financially, but resources in the form of who was focusing on what and working on what away from other capital projects, right? Because we
Right.
were pouring everything into this. And we need to have a very balanced approach and look at how we're addressing things overall as a whole for our city and not just in one area.
Yeah. There was some talk at recent, I don't, not yesterday because I haven't watched that one, but I want to say last month's workshop
Yeah.
about maybe refinancing those bonds to stretch them out over a longer period of time so that the cost right now is lower. What do you support that idea?
No, not at all. If we were to do that, and you look at what we were doing with that process,
Hmm.
extending that debt for 10 years, which is what I believe the time frame was, and again, I'm recollecting from that meeting, I was there,
Sure.
that would essentially also it, it would extend the period of time, but then it would also increase the interest that we paid back over the life of that by almost $11 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's not like that project wasn't expensive enough.
right.
Okay.
Not just the $11 million, but then what they weren't, in my opinion, they hadn't done a real complete job in assessing out. They were only looking at payment repayment and lowering the payment by $14 a month based upon interest payments. But at some point, those bonds become due. And then what does that do? Because we've now stretched this out with the added interest. I believe when you actually did that math, our payment went up like $77 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That,
no, it's a very bad idea.
I'm glad I asked because I
Yeah.
didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit. A couple other things that have been hot topics in the community over the past couple of years, last term.
Sure.
So there's an enormous amount of, I'm just looking, endless saga with public art, and
Oh,
especially
yeah.
that angel of creativity that's going to be at Flintstone Park.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on public art and public financed art and this piece in particular?
Well, I think it's crucial to our society, honestly. I think art is we have to have art. We have to have an outlet for people to express their creativity. Um, it's unfortunate that the Angel saga played out the way it did. I will tell you, um, I promises were made during a campaign of the person that's running against me in this race when he was running for city council that wouldn't happen. And then after he was elected, I believe there was a survey that was done. The survey never should have happened because there were already things that had been put in motion through council meetings, and that was already a done deal. The angel was going up no matter what. So all it did was just create more confusion and anger and angst, and the whole thing was unfortunate the way it was managed and handled. I think it's a bad idea to be campaigning and making promises to people. I mean, we're only going to be able to accomplish and work to fruition what our constituents are going to work with us on, right? So it's a better job to say, I'm going to work really hard to move this down the road, and I'm going to work really hard to bring everyone on board to see my vision and have us all work collaboratively to see that this happens. But to promise things, I think that's bad practice.
Yeah, yeah. It, I I'm inclined to agree with you about the need for art generally,
Yes.
but should it be publicly financed?
Well, I we have an outlet for it, right? So and we have an arts commission, and all of these things are already there. So I don't necessarily have an opinion whether it should be or not, should not be. I definitely think it's, to me, is it a lot different than a public school system where we have art programs and that kind of thing? I think it's a great asset to our community. It can also bring in tourism, and it also could yield other things for our community. Not to mention, it shows that we're a diverse, um, great community that's expressing itself in different ways. I like it personally. I like art. I like to see it. Now, I'm not saying that we need to paint every wall in the city and we need to have a sculpture on every corner. I'm just saying that I am a proponent for art and bettering our community and beautifying our city.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
The other thing that's been up, especially recently, has been this whole talk. Now it's come to naught, but the notion of the Port of Coupeville buying the Oak Harbor Airport,
Yeah.
and that the city was going to kick in some money to help finance that. Is that a good idea?
I will tell you that my focus would not be on what the Port of Coupeville is doing and whether or not we should be a part of that. I believe that we have enough on our plate at the current moment with the capital projects that we either have in process or that we haven't started, that we promised to people. We need to start actually delivering on capital projects that we've been promising to our community for a long time and haven't delivered on, or when we do deliver, we deliver them way over budget. I would rather see us focus on our community and delivering on those things and then start worrying about other things.
Sure, sure. Let's pivot a little again. One of the big issues, and something that you mentioned on your website, is public safety.
Yes.
Now, well, first, I guess, what do you think is the big issue in public safety? What is the piece we need to focus on?
Well, right now, there's a lot of angst and frustration around the homelessness issue, right?
Right.
So that's part of what I'm saying with public safety. The other piece of the public safety piece for me is I am a huge supporter of our men and women who serve as first responders and protect us and keep us safe. And I too often hear or see where they're being abused, and I wouldn't want to do their job ever. And my hats are off to them always. They're always there when we're running away from danger. They're running towards it for us. So we need to do whatever we can to support them. So that's part of the public safety, is making sure that the chief of police, Chief Dresker, and the entire police department know that I support them and I'm behind them 1,000,000%. The other piece of that, though, is the whole homelessness issue. And one, your question was specific to how complicated is it now because of the Martin Boise case and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So you've got two issues with the homelessness and the vagrancy. We have the folks that are moving campers around or parking them on the side of the road, and that is not a homelessness issue. That's a different issue, right? So I mean, yes, they're homeless in a way, but it doesn't fit into that case. If you read the entire case, the Martin Boise case is specific to folks that are sleeping on the ground and they're not in a shelter or anything else.
Okay.
So there are two pieces to that. The first piece, though, with the campers and the motorhomes and where they're parking in what are those, rest stops or on the sides of our roads and making things difficult. We need to work harder with county and state officials. And I've already met with county commissioners and had sit down discussions with them, where there are things that we can be doing to move the needle further down the road to be able to take more enforcement action. And we need to be working harder to partner with those folks. And, one of the things I'm hearing, and, again, I'm just relaying what I'm hearing, county commissioners are saying no one's talking to us about this. So
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. So and so I think that if we, again, it's all about communication, right? It's all about coming to the table. Let's have a conversation and let's see how we can do a better job with spearheading this issue and finding an alternative for these folks. The issue of homelessness, where we've got folks sleeping in the bushes or on the ground or in sleeping bags, and they're around businesses. I've got them around my business as well. What we need to recognize in this country, this is not an issue that's exclusive to Oak Harbor. This is a nationwide problem. And we have a real national pandemic right now with mental illness. And we need to start addressing that as a country before we just start trying to make sweeping things about how we're going to fix this. One of the things is, we need to have places where these folks can go. Otherwise, there's not a lot we can do. That's what the Martin Boise case is all about, and that's what it talks about, right? Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to collectively work with local officials, county officials, state officials, federal officials, and figure out how we can bring the most money in and deliver a place or a system that will house or provide housing for these folks and then also then start moving them in there and trying to rehabilitate them. We've got to work on both sides of the problem. We can't just say they're the problem, this is it. That's it's not going to change them. We've got to figure out how to have something in place that will. And again, that's why it takes communicating and working with other people. We're not going to solve this problem locally. We're not. One of the things I got asked at the Island County Republican Party, a question was asked of me. Well, Anacortes doesn't have this problem. If you talk to their mayor, as a matter of fact, there was a discussion, and they do have the same problem. They don't have any different problems than we do. We all have this problem. So we're all going to have to come together and figure out how to combat this through meeting what is required to then allow our police force to help get them either into a place for rehabilitation or move them on. So
we did an interview with Andy Plumley, who's running for one of the city council seats. And I'm going to throw out this disclaimer. I'm going to try to faithfully represent what Andy said. If I get it wrong, and anybody's watching, don't blame Andy, because I'm probably going to.
Okay.
And he has this notion that there are two prongs of homelessness. One prong is short-term homelessness. There's been some event, somebody lost a job, somebody passed away, serious illness that has thrown people out of their homes, and that we need to work very hard to get those people rehoused as quickly as possible. Some support will turn things around for them. The other prong is, I think that in a separate interview, he referred to this almost as lifestyle homelessness, that which I think ties into what you were talking about with mental health. And if I understood what he was saying, there's a certain bar where we need to be prepared to offer help to those people, right, but not all of them are going to take it.
That's right.
What do we do with the ones who don't?
Well, I think when we have a system in place where they have what needs to be or is supposed to be available to them, right, in the form of temporary housing or even a more extended stay housing, and they have those opportunities available to them and they're not exercising those, then they fall outside of this Martin and Boise case. And then that's where our policing comes in, and we can either figure out how to move them along or what our next step is. I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to get there, right? But we're not even close to there right now. And I would agree that there are different degrees of homelessness out there. I don't have any experience with them, though. I haven't gone out and interviewed these folks. I will tell you that we've got one gentleman that hangs around my building. We just try to leave him alone, and he's not bothering anyone. He doesn't want to bother anyone. So for the most part, that's been my experience with them as well. And I realize that people just don't want it in their space, in their area. I get it, but we've got to figure out what we're going to do about it. And then we've got to start taking action to get there.
Okay. Just want to check we talked about that and that. I got this whole list and check things off the list. So, no, actually, I think we're pretty close to the end of the list and rapidly approaching the end of our time as well. So maybe the best thing at this point is, what is the best way for voters to find out more about what you and what you're doing? Is it your website or Facebook page or
absolutely Yes, absolutely. All of the above. So we have a website, right? It's RonnieWrightForMayor.com.
Okay.
We also have a
the four is the word for
FOR. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's Ronnie Wright for FOR, mayor.com. Okay. And then we have a Facebook page that's Ronnie Wright for Mayor, same thing, FOR. And then I have a dedicated phone line that I don't have that number in front of me. That was terrible, but it's on the website. It's also on the Facebook page, so you can get it there. And I have actually been receiving anywhere from 7 to 10 phone calls a week where people are asking me to meet them for coffee or have lunch with them, or even come to their house and speak with them, talk to them about my vision. And I've been doing that. I'm happy to sit down and talk with people and work with people. I am a professional, just like, you. So, I have to balance a lot of things, but I've been making myself available and doing those things. So absolutely. And I appreciate that. So
good. You update the Facebook page more often or the website?
Both we're updating both. I would say the Facebook page gets things put on there daily, whereas the website we're probably doing more like every other week or so. We're adding things or whatever. So, but really, the Facebook page is just to give you a background into or information into my background as well as my experience, and then what my platform is, and things that I like to call opportunities. I'm not calling them areas of concern or weaknesses or anything like that. I just think that we have some opportunities for improvement, and those are what I want to focus on in my tenure. So,
Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Really appreciate you taking the time.
thank you. It was a pleasure.
We will, when we post this, we were talking about before, we'll send you the link to it, and we'll have links there to your
Okay.
website, Facebook page, and that kind of stuff, so people will be able to find you.
All right. That sounds great. Thanks so much, Alan.
All right. Thank you, Ronnie. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching our interview with Oak Harbor mayoral candidate Ronnie Wright. We invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, available in 4 regional editions around the county: Camino Island, North Whidbey, Central Whidbey, and South Whidbey. The newsletter arrives in your mailbox every Monday morning with news and events from your part of Island County. You can subscribe to the newsletter at voterinterest.com/subscribe. And look for more of these candidate interviews as the election season continues. Thank you and good night.